podcast. This is Spoons and Knives, the Autoimmune podcast. I'm your host, Gray. Joining me today is the lovely Tiberious. She'll be helping me with the first ever episode of Tiberious Tries.
Hello. I have actually never done a Tiberious Tries run, so this is exciting and scary and exciting, much like being in the autoimmune world. This is all very new to me, and I'm a big baby. I am what you would call, pardon my French, a pansy ass. uh, so I am constantly looking for things that make my life easier, and I am willing to suffer in order to make sure I get the best thing possible.
She suffers so that we don't have to.
I do. For Gray in particular, I have smashed my own face into a particularly firm orthopedic memory foam pillow set just to find out how bad do they really smell.
But I think it was worth it.
Yeah, no, it turns out they don't. They don't. These pillows don't smell like memory foam at all. I'm confused, I'm pleased, but most of all, I think the first thing we're gonna do is talk about these pillows, because reason number one, Gray, you are the one that suggested them.
Yeah, I'm a very bad influence. I found this pillow set link, and it was kind of like a little pillow cushion bed type thing. Props you up in all the different directions. And it was linked online, and I shared it with Tiberius, and I was like, oh God, is this like, this looks so good. And of course, she's like, I have to have it. So.
I must.
I'm the bad influence. But yes, I am so pleased that it worked out for you, first of all.
And the price point was spectacular. One of the things that happened in we have a chat group, which is how Gray and I became acquaintances, friends, colleagues, whatever you want to call it.
Insulted.
I said friends afterwards. It's a list. Come on. Have faith in me. The price point was really good for these. Gray says little, and I need you to understand, these are not little pillows. Like, I cannot carry all of them from one room to the other by myself. There has to be 4 sets of hands. It's not 2, just does not cut it in this situation. So I'm 5'4", and the biggest, tallest pillow in this set actually comes up to about the middle of my thigh.
Oh wow, they're actually that big?
They're quite large, yes. Yeah. And they're all really wide, like 3 of me wide. That's very hard to
quantify.
Let's see. Yes, I think I would say it's probably about 3.5 feet at least.
Okay, so
wide.
it's size inclusive for the most part.
Yes, incredibly. And so it's a 5 pillow set. I'm not going to tell you guys the price yet. I'm just going to let you think about it, ruminate on it, marinate on it. But there are 5 of them in this. And the 2 that serve as lower lumbar support and the headrest actually have these nifty little elastic extensions that go over the big base pillow. So there's no...
So let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly. So it binds it together, kind of like a loop. It holds it together?
Yes.
It's awesome.
It's like a rubber band.
Like a really big rubber band.
Made of memory foam and not really stretchy in that way.
So a lot of people might not have experience with memory foam, because I think unless you have a topper for like your bed, generally memory foam isn't something you're incredibly used to. I think you only start going into the memory foam pillows when you're either really old or even autoimmune disorder. So
or enjoy comfort in general.
True. So this pillow set, I think it was initially designed for a bed, but you've said you've used this on the couch as well. So
yes. Besides
the fact that it's not quite easily like transportable, do you find that it fits a variety of spaces?
Oh yes. along with the autoimmune disorder, I have severe ADHD. I get overwhelmed by things pretty easily. I'm pretty good at it now. I've definitely gotten a handle of it. But one of my stims is making strange sounds. So that's just a little like, this girl has ADHD that is so bad that she sometimes just cannot control the sounds that she makes. Floor time is very important to me. I don't know why, but for some reason, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, the floor is my safe space. And these pillows can be used on the floor without any discomfort. They can be used on my couch with no discomfort. They can be used in my bed with no discomfort. Um, and I don't think there hasn't been a single day that they haven't been used by somebody in our family.
Oh, since you've gotten them, that's fantastic. So you found, because
Yeah.
you have a little one and then you have a man partner.
Mhm.
And then so you're finding that they both individually are also enjoying the pillow set.
Yes, I find them all over the place. In fact, so I'm looking at my bed currently and I see there's a large structure, kind of looks like a castle. It's definitely the pillows. I did not put them there. They appeared there today, which means that they were definitely using them while I'm gone. And I love that. That's my favorite thing about them. They're very versatile. You don't have to take them all as a set. You can detach all 5 of the pillows um, and use them in various applications. I'm so pleased.
So I guess what we should kind of talk about is I guess a lot of people out there who may be listening because they know somebody who's autoimmune or might not have an autoimmune condition themselves might be wondering what on earth you actually require a set of 5 awkwardly
Orthopedic
shaped body pillows for.
pillows.
And I think it's kind of important to sort of remind those people or sort of explain that there's a bunch of different purposes for these pillows, but a lot of the time, some people with chronic pain tend to have nerve problems, muscle problems, or other sorts of postural problems. And sometimes actually having a more stable, solid support actually really helps eliminate a lot of joint pain, nerve pain, etc. So somebody who maybe is starting to have some deterioration on the myelin sheath, on the nerves themselves, on either their elbows or their knees or their legs, having themselves propped up in a more ergonomic position will actually help relieve that pain during the day and make them less likely to have that numbness and tingling. And then you can go all the way down to multi-tissue disease or multiple tissue disease or lupus, and the same sorts of things like arthritis, like sort of apply is generally feeling like you can't get comfortable because you can't get yourself in the right position.
There
And
is no comfy position. Yes.
and I think unless you have a giant pillow structure, I think what the majority of us do is obtain like 12 pillows and just stuff them underneath us. I'm looking at my bed currently, and there's at least 7 pillows on that bed, 2 duvets, and a very nice knitted blanket. And I know that I stuff those to create a body shape most nights.
It's a nest.
It's a nest.
You have to understand that no matter what shape it is a nest. It cradles us in the perfect way. And to pull on what Gray is saying about the arthritis, when we talk about autoimmune disease, we have to remember that there's a vast spectrum. So some of us don't deal as much with joint pain as we do with circulatory problems. So when my legs are flat, they get itchy, they get tingly, they get twitchy. I cannot. It's restless leg syndrome in a nutshell. But these pillows help prop my legs so that there's no circulatory problem. So I don't get the pins and the needles. Another one of our cohorts suffers with GERD, which is, oh, I'm going to say it wrong, gastroesophageal reflux disease.
I believe that is correct.
So it's like heartburn on steroids times 6. Instead of just heartburn, the acid in her stomach actually comes at times all the way up. And with every time that this happens, of course, tissues are burned away because, folks, there's acid in our stomachs.
And the
It's
tissue
there
in
for
your
food.
esophagus isn't actually designed to withstand having acid sort of on it, or like to being exposed to acid on the regular.
Yeah.
So like GERD will advance to the point where there is serious tissue damage or serious deterioration of like the esophagus. So for her, staying upright helps preserve her condition a little bit longer in terms of her ability and mobility.
Um, Apart from alleviating her uh, most intense pain symptoms, yeah. So there are lots of different uses here for those of us that suffer with autoimmune issues. Um, and these pillows do a really good job of serving all of those purposes. I do have joint problems occasionally. I do have stomach problems occasionally. I think the stomach problems are specifically because we're just starting treatment, but the pillows help.
So
That's the bottom line here. The pillows help.
I think the pillows would help due to the positioning in terms of most gastro issues as well. I think having your stomach muscles sort of relaxed and in an upright position is generally better. I hear
Mhm.
that laying down when you have fairly upset stomach tends to sort of aggravate things.
Yeah, I have limited experience. I generally don't think about it very much. It's definitely I've changed the way I look at things and write things down now because I need to know. But in the past, I don't have much experience with a whole lot of tummy issues. But the bottom line is the pillows help.
So you had mentioned that you find when you actually have your knees sort of up in that sort of that triangle pillow, that
Mhm.
you find that you don't get the itchiness or the tingling in your legs. So for somebody that might have something like POTS or
Mhm.
primary or secondary Sjogren's, which is where you have
Oh yeah,
intense circulatory problems, is it sort of your assumption that the pillow would assist with that?
yeah. Based on my experience, it definitely has helped. I have tachycardia, which is the elevated heart rate thing. My heart rate, instead of, I don't know what the norm is actually because it's always been higher.
I
That's
believe it's
terrible.
80 over 120 is about like the general normal threshold. I can look it up.
I gotcha. So my resting heart rate is usually in the 90s. Um, on days where I am at work, I'm usually bumping, 104 beats per minute. That's just the norm for me. Um,
Oh, you
and
mean
I've
you mean heart rate, not blood pressure.
No, I mean heart rate.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're pretty much constantly tachycardic.
Yes.
So I've just looked it up. The
It's
normal
exciting.
resting beats for adults is anywhere from 60 to 100 beats. I
Ah.
know that when I am a much lower weight and before I got my POTS under control, I would very regularly be at like 105 to 135, no problem, without exercising.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then salt is wonderful. Salt is
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, and
Mm-hmm. I
I
love broth.
I love broth.
All salt. It's great.
and
Liquid
I
salts.
usually am around like 80 to like 90, which isn't ideal, but considering how much that's come down, that's a lot better for me. But yeah, I don't usually get full tachycardic the way that you are anymore unless I actually have a fever.
It's funny too because I am on a stimulant.
Oh,
My
right.
heart rate is higher when I'm not on it.
Really?
Yes.
That's so intriguing.
I know. I don't know if it has to, it may very well have to do with the fact that I am most definitely physically dependent on it.
Hmm.
And it might be the withdrawal more than anything,
Hmm.
but it does spike. But putting my feet up and like I used to do, and put my butt against the wall on the bed with my back on the bed and put my feet up,
Hmm.
and that would help calm me down.
Now you've got the
Anxiety,
pillow for that, for under your knees.
yes, it's so much easier. I'm gonna get fat because I'm not doing anything with my abs anymore, but it's so much easier.
You can find other resources for that, or just COVID weight, and we'll deal with it later.
I'll just come eat some of this cakey.
Ah,
Eh,
thick thighs
get
save
used to it.
lives anyway.
Yeah, thick thighs save lives. Come a little buttercup.
So I think it's sort
Um,
of a topic we like within the autoimmune community. There is generally a lot of meds do make you gain weight, or a lot of conditions make you fairly inactive. And I think the societal beauty norms, sorry, of that average 5'6", 110 pound lady or very skinny muscular man, I feel like it's incredibly toxic to allow yourself to continue
yeah,
to subscribe to that, especially when you are dealing with an illness. Like it's almost like a form of ableism. Like
yeah.
your body doesn't work like that.
So yeah, exactly. Our blueprint is just a little bit different, or even like you said, treatment can help your weight fluctuate vastly. I ah just recently got back up to 140, which is kind of that's my power weight.
Hmm.
It's where I feel the best. Um, but it definitely dipped. Like it had been something like 4 years since I had been less than 130,
Hmm.
and I got there for about a week, and it wasn't on purpose. My issue has always been I've been underweight,
Mm.
and what we think is most likely lupus. So I have an unknown diagnosis still. We haven't gotten the yes. We've gotten the it kind of looks like this. It kind of acts like this.
So did
But
they
we're
run
gonna.
your ANA and your pattern? Do you have a speckled pattern high ANA titration?
I don't have enough base data yet. I actually go and get my blood work done for the second time, not this week, but next week.
That is incredibly exciting.
I know. The anticipation is literally killing me. Uh
Lupus is tricky because there is sort of this like gold standard of what your blood work should look like to get an instant smack, you're
the
diagnosed,
shoe in.
welcome to the club.
Yes.
But
Haha, here's your jacket.
I wish we had cool jackets.
Oh,
But
maybe we should make them.
but there's a lot of people too who have lupus where it's just not progressed to the point where you're experiencing full-on flares, and those people
Mm.
often don't present the way that they arguably quote like need to, and the diagnosis process is a lot harder to come by. So for example, when I first was diagnosed, I forget my exact numbers, but it was over 160 or 168 or whatever it is. And the doctor, it was a speckled pattern ANA, and it was just congratulations, you have lupus.
Oh,
And they put me on Plaquenil that day. They tried to put me on prednisone. It didn't work out so well, but I've been on Plaquenil ever since, and that was July 2018. And again, my lupus is flaring quite badly right now because of the stress of everything with COVID and whatnot. If you're watching this a couple of years later, we're still in the middle of COVID. We're in year two,
ooh.
and I would definitely say I just had my blood work done again last week after like a mental breakdown basically, and I'm again at that 1 to 160 marker point. So it would be interesting for you as sort of like a perspective to see how bad it really is for you.
Yeah, yeah. See, that's part of the that anxious sound. That that's one of the things that I'm like, I am very interested in the qualitative data. Yes, absolutely. And the interesting thing is that we did catch it really early.
Mm.
Um, we had already taken X-rays and things like that. So my hand actually you probably hear it every now and again.
Mm.
There's a clicking that happens. And it's my hand, my left hand. I have never had, I mean, I've broken all my fingers. I played soccer. I was a very active teen. Um, and the last couple of years, it kept getting worse and worse and worse. When it got cold, it would swell. When it was, I mean, sometimes my hand would get stuck. It is progressively getting worse. And the reason that we even started testing was because I had this clicky hand. I call it my crunchy hand. Um, luckily, it's my left hand. I'm right-handed. Um, so the crunchy hand, and then the skin on my toes and my toenails started thickening. And I was getting these really intense burning, tingling for no reason and no color change. So it wasn't Raynaud's. It was only happening on my left side. It was only happening in my feet. And these are the things that prompted my primary care provider to get blood work done again. I had been having blood work done quite frequently in the years prior, because I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 22, um, and because I have tachycardia. The idea of putting me on a stimulant like Adderall, which is what I'm on, presented
Challenges, some
the.
unique challenges and risks.
Yep, we talked about the fact that it would probably shorten my lifespan. Um, but additionally, I have spent so much of my life fighting to be a happy person, a positive person, um, someone that people can trust, that I wasn't going to let that scare me. I wanted to live a full life. I wanted that ability. I'd tried for so long without any medication, and it just wasn't working. So that. But my PCP, my primary care provider, noticed the crunchy hand, and she looks at me and she says, "How old are you?" "I'm 26." And she says, "That's not right." She had grabbed my hand and poked it. It wasn't right. She decided. So we got blood work done, and my C-reactive protein was 6.4 times higher than the normal maximum. I still don't actually quite know what that means. I know it's an inflammatory marker. I know that all of my inflammatory markers were quite high, but I'm still very fresh. I'm very green.
I will say too, I'm unfamiliar in terms of like the medical system in the States because I am from Canada.
Yeah,
And I'm also
I'm familiar.
unfamiliar generally with the sorts of antibody testing that your PCPs are allowed to do. Because in Canada, I
Yeah.
was just referred out pretty much at a
Oh,
certain point. And then all of my antibody testing and all of that was done by my rheumatologist.
oh,
So
interesting.
I had
This
like
will be my first lab work with my rheumatologist.
it's going to be a lot of good things. They can run much more specialized testing, I find, which
Yeah,
tend to have much more answers. Um, your
fantastic.
your experience of the crunchy hand sort of really rings true to me. I had a really bad episode of mono, and anyone who doesn't know, the Epstein-Barr virus can actually be the catalyst for a lot of people with autoimmune diseases, and that is sort of what happened to me. So
Huh.
when I was about 19 or 20 years old, I got the most intense case of Epstein-Barr that I could have imagined. Um, and I was basically bedridden for 3 or 4 months.
Oh my gosh.
And I barely managed to like go to school. I was in university at the time. I actually had to get my credits written out. So I got the credit, but the marks didn't stay on the exam, or I would have had to have been like kicked out.
Oh my gosh.
But it was brutal. And then after that point, after I recovered, I never quite slept the same way. My neck never felt the same way. I started getting this really intense pain in my shoulders and in my upper back. And then, wouldn't you know, within about 6 months, and for context here, I used to be able to deadlift about 150 pounds, and it was not uncommon for me to run about 8 kilometers, which I think is like 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah,
Like,
I think about 4.2. I used to run too.
yeah, I used to do that about daily.
Our stories are like the same. I used to squat like about 150 pounds, which at the time was
You and me have the
um
same stats too, so these are pretty impressive numbers across the board.
right.
Um,
I am gray in the future.
you're a beefier version than me, though. You have much more muscle mass because I've been disabled for so long.
I'll
Um,
get there. Give me time. Don't worry about it. I'm
don't
coming.
don't waste away.
I hope not. I
But
hope to continue to try to practice yoga. We'll see.
but to more the story point, within about 6 months of recovering or so, I found my wrists started having immense pain, which was very uncommon for me. At first, we thought it was related to me doing factory work, line work. But
Right.
when we sent me out for X-rays, there was just no sign of damage, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And about 3 years after deteriorating, and no doctor of mine thinking that it was bad enough to send me out to a rheumatologist, I finally started having cold sweats, like night sweats, constantly feeling
Right.
like I was sick all the time. I was
Mhm.
having massive gastro pain. I had the worst brain fog. I just couldn't stop sleeping. The fatigue was through the roof. And my whole body, like my arms were just killing me. Finally, I went to like I was at the grocery store bringing back a box of kitty litter one day. And it was maybe a 30-minute walk, which, as we've discussed, I used to be incredibly active. And I basically pulled my shoulder out,
Oh,
like just carrying it.
just
Yeah, basically. I was using the TENS machine for a little while just to try and find some relief. And I just finally was like, this is not right. So I ended up going to a walk-in. And I ended up begging the walk-in doctor to send me over to a rheumatologist, which normally they don't do. But
right.
my own doctor at the time was refusing. So they finally sent me out. First they did, they checked my lymph nodes and they're like, your lymph nodes are incredibly swollen. You should know this is problematic. And everyone always thinks swollen lymph nodes, Hodgkin's, lymphoma, like cancer. So
Mm-hmm.
first I had a cancer scare, and then I had my rheumatology appointment, and then they told me I probably had fibromyalgia, and then they did the testing and they told me I have lupus.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was pretty like back to back, a lot of really weird things, but I think that's usually what happens is really active people start just being like, I shouldn't be in pain from doing this because I understand what physical activity feels like, and this doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Right.
It's almost like the worst DOMs I can imagine.
Yeah. The that yeah. It definitely another big part of it for me was so I did not at all expect to be going down this road at all. If you told me, let's say this time last year,
Mm-hmm.
if you told me this time last year, hey, you're about to be told that you have an autoimmune disease and that we don't know what it is, but that it really looks like lupus, I would have been like, that would explain why I'm so tired.
Right, but that would be
But
about the end of it.
exactly. Um, I wasn't even the one that initiated the beginning of figuring it out. And I think that's the thing that I'm so very lucky. I'm so very lucky in so many ways, and I try to tell myself that every day. And if you suffer from an autoimmune disease, whether it's the beginning, the middle, it's so, so important to try and stay positive. I know it's hard. But that's one of the things that really gets me. I probably would not have even known until it really started doing the lasting damage.
Right.
But the tiredness, I'm on the highest dosage of Adderall they can give me for my weight. And I was tired. What? I have a severe caffeine addiction. And I was tired. It, yeah.
I had very similar. I'm not on Adderall, obviously. My ADHD is not that bad. But I did have a very intense caffeine addiction, and I was sleeping like 14 hours a night, no joke, 12 to
Yes,
14
I would
hours.
make the joke. I would make the joke. I'm great in bed. I can sleep all day.
Great at sleeping.
Yes. My record was 28 hours
Ah, wow,
asleep. Yeah.
that's
I
crazy.
wanted to go back to bed.
I think that's sort of the scary thing is as you get sicker with things that are lupus like in the same family, the fatigue is sort of unparalleled. I know a lot of people like to say, "Oh, you haven't been a mom and not slept for XYZ period of time," but honestly, once you start taking medications for lupus, not only do you have this inclination to sleep for about 14 hours a night solidly, like I could fall asleep at any moment, but you get to this point where your pain keeps you awake. It's called pain insomnia. So even though you want to be sleeping, you physically cannot. Or
It's the
you
worst.
end up taking medications that make it impossible for you to sleep. So you'll lie in bed, desperately tired, desperately begging for sleep, and you just can't.
Staring at the back of your eyelids,
And 5 hours
counting.
later,
It's time to get up. And I didn't sleep at all.
And I think,
Oh God, why?
and that's what I'm jealous about when it comes to parents, is because I understand you get interrupted sleep all the time and it's hard to feel rested at any full period of time, but you still get to sleep if there's an opportunity for you to. We
Yes.
cannot sleep.
Hi, I'm Tiberious. I have an autoimmune disease and a child.
Your child, though, how long have you? So I guess I don't know this. How long has your child, like your partner's child, been in your life?
Okay, so yes, I am the pseudo stepmother, and he is 4. So my life is very, very easy when it comes to Mr. Oliver Bolivar.
I guess that was going to be my question. Like, were you there around when he was more demanding of like your time during the night hours?
No, no, and fortunately for me, um, because I have no idea what I'm doing, Josh does. My partner does, and has been a single parent for the last 2 years. We actually got together a month after I got my blood work done. And so there was that conversation where I was like, hey, you have a lot on your plate, and I might about to be having a lot on my plate too. Do you want to have a lot on a shared plate? Or is that just, mm-mm.
Right. Like, do
I,
we want to do this together and share the baggage, or is this just going to be a recipe for disaster?
right. And I've liked this man since I was in 6th grade.
Ooh.
We dated for a week. I think we held hands once. And for some, I thought he was out of my league. And I feel like that more and more. Sometimes
Aw.
I feel very lucky because he has that experience. He's very good about. Sometimes I wake up and he's just not there, and I know that he's with Oliver, and it's fine. But he slips out silently. This man is a ninja, and is willing and ready to do what he needs to do as a father and as a partner. Um, Not only to a normal person, but to someone who is suffering from chronic disease. So I have it very easy.
The care demand levels for an autoimmune partner are a little bit higher than I think your average partner.
I'm not high maintenance. I'm needy. That's what I tell people. I don't need my nails to be done all of the time, but you have to pay attention to me.
I just
You
want
need to.
back rubs. I just want you to rub my neck all the time. That's what I want.
I have 3 demands. 3 demands. I'm very easy. I think I'm very easy. But I do have 3 demands. Feed me.
Yes.
Tell me I'm pretty.
Check.
Take me for walkies.
Mm. You are a very beautiful, overgrown golden retriever.
Yes, I think of myself more as a weasel.
Ooh. Okay.
I like to steal things. I like shiny things. I'm kind of troublesome. Rub my tummy. Let's wrestle.
And then
Weaselly.
tuck you into those pillows afterwards and bring you food.
Yes. Yes, please. Please, thank you. Yes.
I am so glad for you that you have quite the support network going on. I would say I was going through an incredibly stressful and turbulent time in my life when I was being diagnosed, which is why I think I got diagnosed. I think the sheer stress and cortisol of my life brought out the disease into its full flare form,
Yeah.
and which
Yeah.
allowed me to get diagnosed. But I am
Double-edged sword.
yeah, I'm so jealous of everyone. I had a relatively stable relationship while I was going through getting diagnosed, and I'm like,
Yeah, see, and I say that. I tell people a lot. People want to say sorry all the time. First of all, I'm not the kind of person that is like, oh, feel sorry for me.
we
I'm
don't
like,
want your
I got this.
apologies.
But also because I am very lucky. And unfortunately, this conversation just keeps hitting me in the face with a frying pan, reminding me of it. And I've been in this, what do I do? Woe is me. Not quite woe is me, but kind of like it's been a little hard. Last week was a little difficult,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, but I am so very lucky, and I tell people frequently, everything that could be going right for me in this situation with this diagnosis is going right for me.
Mhm.
I'm in a financially stable place. I'm in a wonderful committed relationship that is very secure, and talking about it makes my face tingle.
Oh,
Um, I have a good relationship with my mom and my grandma and have them as support. And mentally speaking, I'm in a good place for this. I think if 21-year-old Tiffany had gotten this diagnosis, that things would not have gone well. We're talking like mental breakdown, like put this chick in the asylum. Uh, didn't cry. Didn't. There wasn't a lid on the crazy. There's a lid on the crazy now.
right. You've grown into it.
Yes. Yeah. I call it character.
Hmm.
They always say that bad situations build character. I think I've built enough.
I think
I'm ready to be done now.
at the same time, as much as you have a lot going for you and you can acknowledge that you are in a blessed position, I think it is almost like a toxic positivity sort of notion to think that that means that you can't be upset. And I do hope
Oh,
that for anyone listening,
yes.
or even for you too, you're allowed to have bad days. I don't care
Oh,
how good
yes.
your life is. I don't care how like you could shit out diamonds for all I care, and you can have a bad
Yes.
day, and
Yeah.
they're valid, they're okay. It's fine to just, you know, hit pause and go, this day is not mine. And if you are legal age and in a legal consumable place, if that means just like taking some weed, a couple puffs or some drops, and you know you need to call out of work because the pain's too bad or the mental health's not there, and you just sort of zone out for the day, like you do that, you do
Yeah.
it. I don't.
Absolutely. It's so, so important not to bottle up these feelings
Right.
now. So, a lot of time when we talk about mental health and we talk about um, getting stuck in a dark place, I know that my timeline for I was in a really dark place is a lot shorter than some people's. I just don't have a very big attention span, folks. I might as well be a goldfish. I'll get mad about things, and 10 minutes later, I don't remember what it is. And that's kind of an advantage for me. But you gotta let it go. You gotta feel it. You gotta embrace it, acknowledge it, and let it go.
I think
It's your feelings are valid. Nobody gets to tell you that they didn't hurt you when they did. It's or you're just having a tough time. It's important to acknowledge it.
as cheesy as it sounds, meditation, when done correctly, when practiced correctly, can be incredibly valuable for that. It's a really good
Hmm.
anxiety technique as well, being able to sort of take your thoughts one by one, validate them individually, or come up with solutions to them if it's a maladaptive anxiety, and
I
sort
talk
of,
to myself
yeah, just set your
like I am a toddler.
right. Just talk yourself through the situation. Like, nope, that's not a problem because of XYZ. We are good. Or, you know
Yep.
what? Yeah, like, it does suck that I'm in pain all the time and I shouldn't go through this because I'm XYZ age or I'm being kept from doing XYZ thing. And I think feeling that, holding it, really just acknowledging it, like giving it a kiss on the head, you know, and then putting it down and going to the next thought. I think that's a really important
Ex-
skill to learn. And it's so hard.
exactly.
It is
It's
so
so
hard.
hard. You have to practice it every day.
Yep.
You could if you don't do it for a week,
That's when
it
you break
really is
down.
the one step forward, two steps back thing.
Yep.
It really is. But
Yeah.
once you get it,
You're perfect.
it's still hard. But it does get they say when you grow up, they say it'll get easier.
It doesn't.
It doesn't get easier, but you acquire more tools along the way. Your tool belt gets a little fuller. It's got a little more diversity every time. You know, like maybe the first time you're going at it, all you have is a Phillips head screwdriver and you really need the hex. But guess what? Next time you'll have that hex ready to go.
I mean, 20-year
It's
old me just had a hammer. It didn't matter if it was a nail or a screw. I was just like,
I just gotta
thwack!
smash it.
And I think adult me has a much more like refined toolkit. There's different levels, there's different
Yeah.
things. You can look at them, they shine. And I think
Hmm.
therapy is really important. I'm a bit biased here because my degree is in psychology. I not only did social psychology and a little bit of marketing, but I did a fair bit of work as well with abnormal psychology, which is sort of counseling sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that is my background. And I would say, even as somebody with like a degree in psychology, with I have my honors, was going for my MA, and then my disease happened. And with all the textbooks still and all the rest of it, I've been in therapy in and out since I was 14. And I can tell you, I needed a special therapist basically when I started going through my illness process. It's so overwhelming, and it feels so unfair, and you feel very alone. And I think having somebody to talk to regularly, as well as sort of feed you little tools for your kit, just sort of like slip like some duct tape into your pocket basically when you leave every session or something new, I think is
Yes.
incredibly invaluable.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've been in and out of therapy for a multitude of things. I think the last time I went to therapy, I had just gotten done with repression therapy.
Ooh.
I had a very tumultuous childhood, and I would not change it for the world. It took me a very long time to figure this out, but I think I'm pretty cool. I'm okay. I'm finally starting to like me.
Proud of you.
But
Wow. Good job.
thank you. It was hard. It is hard. But it's worth it. The last time I went to therapy, I think I was going to therapy for mindfulness. Mindfulness for the people around me that were not the people that should have been around me. I didn't realize this until afterwards. But again, tools for the future. I am a pawnbroker now and a federal firearms dealer, and I'm a lady. I am the only lady. It's not all
she's
bad.
a lady.
Yes. And it's not all bad, but there are definitely times when I have to hold my tongue and not shoot the person in front of me that has not only told me that he missed me and then he washed his hands, but also comes back every Saturday. I want to shoot him so bad.
I could not be trusted with guns. I am a Canadian, and I tell you, I do not want them anywhere near me. They terrify me, and I should not be trusted with them.
You know, I had a point in my life where I felt similarly. And then there's just the many years of therapy occasionally comes down in my psyche like a great hand, the hand of a goddess, and is like, look, punk, I didn't sit through all of these things to watch you throw it all away.
And my life didn't bring me right here, through all of the things that we went through in the trauma. We didn't work so hard to just throw this away.
Yeah, exactly. So you get that. That happens after a bit. Therapy is really hard at first, and it really sucks, and you hate everything about it. And then something somewhere kind of clicks, and you kind of go, wait, I've role-played this before.
We visualized this last weekend on the couch. I know what to do.
I can do this. I was born for this.
I think the other note with that's really important to sort of mention is that finding the right therapist for you is the only key to success, because you can go to 7 or 8 sessions or spend hundreds of dollars and hours of your time. If you are with somebody that you don't connect with or click with, it's not going to happen. And
you're not going to tell them what they want to know. They're not going to tell you what you want to know. It's just not going to work.
I say this as somebody who is a vast proponent against the inner child related therapy, and it works great for so many people. There's a lot of great research behind it. It's a lot of good success from it. It's not for me. And I think that's valid. Just being able to go, this technique is great for other people. And if
not so much me.
So I had a therapist in university once because we had free therapy for like X amount of times a semester at my university.
Nice.
And the first therapist they stuck me with was like, she took a pen and a piece of paper, and I'll never not visualize this. I can never get this image out of my head. And after I'd finished talking to her and just spilling my guts about my internal problems and my issues in school and my overwhelming depression and sort of feeling incredibly suicidal at the time. She's like, let's take a step back and focus on your inner child. You mentioned trauma with your parents, who, by the way, I was not even speaking to at the time. We were cut off from each other. It was that bad.
Mhm.
I was financially emancipated from them. And she was like, let's address the inner child in you. Let's look at younger you and look at that in the face of all your relationships with other women in your life. And I'm like, no,
No.
I
No.
want to kill myself, and I want to talk about that. And I don't
I'm
want to,
sorry, did you not hear that part?
I don't really want you to. She's like, no, it's an inner storm in your mind. It's really clouded. I was like, I respectfully made somebody else. And I think you should feel very good about leaving an appointment early. I think you should feel very good about, after your first session, declining to make a follow-up appointment. And I think you should feel very good about, looking for other options. You're allowed to shop around. It's not really like a relationship. You can be polyamorous if you want without other people's consent. You can see multiple therapists at the same time. You can
at one time was seeing 3 therapists at the same time, and I tell you what, it was glorious.
Because each of them does something specific for you.
A little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Also that, yes. Knowing is half the battle, folks.
I know, what is it? One of the YouTubers I quite like, Anna Akana, she's like, I have like 3 or 4 therapists, a life coach, a dating coach, and all these different things. And she is figuring herself out. And I think if you have the financial means to see multiple therapists for multiple issues, please do that.
For God's sakes, do it.
It's so hard to find one that does everything you need. It takes a village.
It does.
It takes a village to raise a child, but your inner child, you're still a child. You still require a village. But it's true, you do still require a village of people to help you.
It's a different kind of village.
Yeah.
Gray, this has been wonderful, and I hope that we get to do it again.
What should we expect for our next Tiberious tries? What products have you been examining?
Oh, I have a deodorant. Well, an antiperspirant. I'm new to that world. It's very cool.
Well, folks. Well, I cannot wait to hear about the antiperspirant or the deodorant. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us today and taking time out of your day to be here.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to next time.
Thanks for sticking around, Spoonies. We'll see you next episode.